Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And the guys, of course, have the week off from the Inside the Birds pre- and post-game show. No Eagles this week, but the little bye-week breakdown with Adam Caplan from InsideTheBirds.com. And we're brought to you today by EMT Solar and Roofing. See if your home qualifies for a free roof with solar installation. No commitments, no hidden fees. Go to ESPNSolar.com to see if you qualify. Adam Caplan is back. The Eagles have a week off here. What's going on, Adam Caplan?
Yeah, how about that? Good to talk to you, Mike. Yeah, and we had a big trade, which we'll talk about. I know some people are thinking like, you know, this now it's going to be the best team in the NFL or best team in the NFC. I don't see it that way, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, we actually dropped a show this morning, which is a lot of fun. We did our annual Eagles bye-week self-scout show, which dropped this morning on every platform, and it's great. We go through both sides of the football, what we've heard, what we've seen, what we know, and what they need to do to become a Super Bowl type of team. And it's hard sometimes when a team is as good as they are, but we definitely found some stuff. Some stuff, we discovered kind of when we did some research and asked around, and some stuff we kind of knew, and we put a stamp on it. And we also just dropped for our Patreon subscribers, which is super cool. Former Raiders defense coordinator Paul Gunther, he gave us an hour, and we did a Chalk Talk series with him. And there were a lot of things we didn't know we didn't know we were going to talk about, but we wound up talking about. And we actually talked about Jalen Hurts and how he saw him, how the Eagles are using him. It was wonderful. And he talked about the scheme that not Vic Fangio, but Jonathan Gannon is running, his version of Fangio's scheme. We talked about that and a lot of other subjects. And by the way, Gunther is actually from the area, went to Council Rock, and was a roommate at Ursinus College with Dan Mullen, which is interesting.
Yeah, Gunther formerly was the Bengals DC too, right?
Is that too?
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, let's talk about this trade because obviously the Eagles were a team that we talked about yesterday. Who was the biggest challenger in the NFC? Our friend Sal Palantonio was on. He said he thought it was Minnesota after this trade. I don't know if you think it's Minnesota, but where does this put the NFC now?
Yeah, Minnesota. I'll say this about Minnesota: they've got a very good offense. I just don't believe in their defense. I think their defense is a problem. Their secondary is not very good at corner. I think they could be exploited. I know they're 5-1 and only half a game back of the Eagles, but right now, you look at how they're ranked. Right, Eagles are the number one team in the National Football League, the only undefeated team. But if you just isolate the NFC, Mike, it's the Eagles 1, Minnesota 2 at 5-1, and this is typical. If you just look at it, there's things that happen you just cannot understand or you can't figure. The Giants, who've been severely undermanned on offense, are 5-1. Now, people want to say they've had an easy schedule. I don't think you could say the Ravens are a bad football team. I think people are looking for reasons not to believe in the Giants. I understand, okay, but they also can't. You look at their last two wins. Both teams they trailed. They came back. They won in England against the Packers 2 weeks ago. They were getting handled a little bit by the Ravens. They came back and won. They won that game. Their only loss was the 7-point loss at home to Dallas, but they played better since then. But if you look at the conference right now, I would have to tell you that the teams that would concern me, and we'll get to the Eagles' schedule in a second, but I would definitely say that the Giants, just because they play good defense, we'll talk about them kind of what I think they present. The Cowboys, I know the Eagles handle them pretty well, no doubt. They were up 20-0 at halftime. The Rams, I don't think they're a competitor. They have too many problems. They were in on the McCaffrey stuff, but they didn't get him, obviously. I believe, and maybe I'm in the minority, I do believe Tampa Bay is going to bounce back, not only beating a very bad Carolina team, but I do believe they're going to wind up winning the NFC South and be heard from. They just have to get over their injury issues, and they just got to get Brady going again. But I just can't see the Buccaneers being as bad as they are at 3-3.
Yeah, you got that group of teams. I kind of agree. To me, Dallas with that defense, getting Dak Prescott back, to me, they would be the biggest challenger. But I like San Francisco's defense even before they got McCaffrey. They've had a lot of injury issues. It's been their problem.
They have. Yeah, so let's talk about we'll talk about the Niners and McCaffrey. So, first of all, why did they make this trade? First of all, when you looked at it, Jeff Wilson had been filling in for Elijah Mitchell, who's on injured reserve with a pretty significant knee injury. It's a grade 3 MCL sprain, I believe, which is going to keep him out probably till mid to late November. And everything that Kyle Shanahan does in offense revolves around the run game. It always starts and ends with the run game. And they needed a running back who could fit that scheme, who could handle a lot of work. And Jeff Wilson's been okay, but he's nothing special. He's a decent backup, is what you like him to be. And they wanted this player, McCaffrey, became available. They didn't have a first-round pick. It's interesting. The Panthers set originally multiple first-round picks. No one was going to do that. Obviously, it's a running back here. It's not a quarterback. So I think they did the smart thing. One GM told me he could not believe the haul that the Panthers got. They said McCaffrey, because based on his injury history and the position, is not in his mind. This personnel guy said, this GM said, he goes, look, if we need a running back, we'd offer a second-round pick. That's all he's worth because he's a running back. That's just the way it is. And when you look at it, I thought the Panthers did well. I mean, getting to a second, third, and fourth next year and a fifth the following season. You have to also understand that the Panthers only had four draft picks before this trade. This helps them out. They know they're going to be the market for a quarterback. They probably will have, if not the first pick overall, no worse than the third pick. So they're going to be getting a quarterback. We know that. You know, they're talking to the Panthers. By the way, Mike, their roster's not bad. They missed so badly at quarterback, it's crushed their season. But Dante Foreman will take over at running back, but they have 4 new starters on the offensive line, very good defense. They have a base of players that they want to keep. They're not going to trade Brian Burns. I know people are calling for them, and Derek Brown. They're not going to do it. The only way they would even think about it, it would have to be multiple first-round picks and probably more, because these are building blocks players, and this is what they want to do. They want to build around this young nucleus, and they're not in the market. Most teams look at this, have good young players. They're like, why would we give up young players? No, we want to build around them, and that's their thought process.
Adam Caplan, football at 4. Eagles on the bye. So how do teams handle this bye week here? What's going on now as they are 6-0 to get ready for – it's an early bye for the stretch run.
Yeah, it's funny. Trey Thomas, we didn't even know this. Trey Thomas pointed this out to us. I think in like 1999, they had a bye, and it was so ridiculous. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was like week 15. Think about how ridiculous that is. You're exhausted, you're tired, you want your season to end. Yes, I'm sorry, it's week 16 out of 17 weeks on a 16-game season. That was the season, Mike, when they beat the Rams in the last game 38-31, and the Eagles then felt they had a lot of momentum. And remember, I think they were like 11-5 the next season in 2000, their first year making the playoffs under Andy. So yeah, week 7, it's a little early. You'd rather probably maybe week 9, but what they're doing now is, and if you remember Andy, who's the best coach after the bye in NFL history, typically you kick your players out by midweek if you have them there at all. And Andy would just kick them out. They get their treatment Monday. They get the game plan during the week of what they want the players to do, and they're out. Leave late Monday morning or late or early Monday afternoon. And I think the Eagles players were somewhere. I know they were definitely going by Wednesday, but anyway. So you're trying to figure out what you do well, what you don't do well, and you're also looking at what are you so obvious in doing in terms of what are your tells? Like what are you so obviously doing well where teams are starting to get a beat on you, and then you start correcting it and make sure, Mike, that you don't do that anymore. And I talked to John DeFilippo, the former Eagles quarterbacks coach, and he told me the big thing was tendency-wise. This is what I'm talking about. You never want to make sure you're so obvious in what you're doing. So what he said, when they were coming out of their bye week in 17, they made sure they changed some things up a little bit. You never change what you do. He said the worst thing you can do, and he had been with a coordinator who did this when he was a quarterbacks coach over the years. He said the worst thing is when you start changing your identity or you put in a lot of new plays because you want to change things up. The problem is these players haven't run these plays since training camp, or if at all, and you don't want to do that. So you want to be true to who you are, but you don't want to be so obvious in what you do.
Adam, we'll close with this because they're 6-0. Their next 3 games, Pittsburgh, Houston, Washington, sound like 3 winnable games. So Let's reset the schedule. How many teams on this schedule should they be concerned about?
I would say 6 games. At Dallas, of course, which you would think theoretically would be harder. I know the Eagles have been a good road team. particularly this season. At the Colts now have turned their season around under Frank Reich. They're getting Jonathan Taylor back, their star running back. In fact, Nyheim Hines will play this week as well, the number 2 back. Now, I know that people are killing the Packers. I know they're not playing well, but that game is in Philly. They beat Aaron Rodgers once, the last time they played him in Green Bay. But you're always worried about that, his ability to get rid of the football quickly. That'd still be a challenging game. Now, here's why the Titans game, which will be here in early December, the Eagles' run defense has shown some leaks. There's no doubt the run defense is a weakness, one of the few weaknesses on the team. That's it's all about stopping the run that week, Mike. They'll have to sell it against the run. And then both games against the Giants, which we thought were cream puff games, not anymore, man. They're super competitive. Their defense is playing out of its mind. They've got some problems at outside linebacker with injury, but they're playing good. Daniel Jones has improved. He's not great. They're not very good at receiver. Look, the Eagles should win both games, but they'll be challenged the Eagles' defense. The Eagles' offense with their defense. So those would be the 6 games: at Dallas, at Indy, at Giants, home against the Giants, home against the Titans, and home against the Packers. Those would be the 6 games out of their remaining 11 that I would be concerned about.
Adam Caplan, InsideTheBirds.com, Inside the Birds podcast. They have so many things on the Inside the Birds platform. Real quick, yesterday, Sal Powell was on. He gave me 4 running backs that the Eagles should target in a trade. Let me ask you, do you think that they need to make a deal? Is there something that they're lacking that they have to kind of address?
Well, I maybe I'm in the minority here. It seems like I'm a minority with a lot of stuff. I would say third outside corner. I just, we've always said this on Inside the Birds, Mike. What's your answer when a starter gets hurt? Is Zach McPherson really going to be good enough? I think that's, to me, a little bit risky. So to me, Mike, in the end, I can't see it. They have to look at it. If something presents itself, they have to take a look at that. To me, it's
kind of like what they did with Corey Graham. They brought in that veteran third safety, Corey Graham.
Right, and that's another one. By the way, safety, depth at safety. Is your answer Kevon Wallace as your next starter if one of the guys gets hurt? He's a box safety. He doesn't have good coverage skills. I think that would be a mistake. Fuck, he barely made the team. So that one. Now, see, what's been interesting, they've been able to close the game so well, Mike, with the running backs. Could a back with size? We know they've looked at it. Trey Sermon, by the way, could be that guy. He obviously.
You want the 4 names that Sal gave me?
What's good?
You want me to give you the 4 names Sal gave me real fast? I know you got to get out of here, but Brandon Bolden, Rex Burkhead, Kareem Hunt, and Latavius Murray. They were the 4 names.
The problem with Hunt is he's once his contract extended. The Browns, I wouldn't rule it out completely because they're 2-4, especially they lose this week. He's outstanding in the past game, and they had a very bad off the field history. The Eagles have, they don't usually bring in those type of players. Though they were interested in Deshaun Watson, though their situation is a little different, but both had off the field issues. Rex Burkhead's an older player. I don't see that at all. That he's there because of the general manager in Houston. Latavius Murray there, they kind of need him in Denver. They brought him in. He's done a good job, by the way. He's an older player in his 30s.
All 3 of those guys, by the way, are 32.
Yeah, I look. It's down on my list. I hear Sal. I get that. It's been on my list all season.
Yeah,
but they've closed these games so well with their running game. I don't know if they really need to do it, to be honest with you.
All right, Adam Caplan, InsideTheBirds.com. Follow those guys. Check out all the Inside the Birds stuff. And, of course, Football at 4 right here on the Sports Bash. We'll be back getting ready for Eagles-Steelers next week right here on Football at 4. Thank you, Adam.
All right, man. Thank you.
And Adam's back next week on Tuesdays and Fridays. We have Adam Caplan from Inside the Birds. Of course, you hear Jeff Mosher on Mondays and Wednesdays and Andrew DeCecco on Thursday. That's the Inside the Birds team.